All right, well, it's close enough to 4:30. We'll go ahead and start the Brentwood Public Works meeting on August 12th, 2015. We get a roll call.
Alderman Leahy.
I'm here.
Alderman Bannister.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Toohey.
Here. Next, we have the minutes from July 8th, 2015. Any changes to the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Okay, do we need a roll call on this?
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Abstain. I was absent.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes. All right, now, do any members of the public would like to come up to the podium and comment for the meeting? Take that as a no. All right, comments by committee members. Start to my far left with Alderman Leahy.
Nothing at this time.
Move over to Ward 2.
Nothing at this time.
No comment.
Okay. I'm just going to bring up a couple of housekeeping measures. One, when people present, we're a small group. I don't think we need to raise our hand and have me call on you. We're too small. But if you ask 2 or 3 questions in a row, if you could just stop and look to see if another member has a question, I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I will stop you if someone else is waiting. So I know I personally, when someone goes on and on, I kind of forget what I want to ask. So the other thing I'll ask is, when we do have items on the agenda, if you want to bring a material change to something, or you're going to propose something much different than what's already been presented to us by staff, if at least 2 or 3 days in advance, you can let staff know of your proposal or the committee members so we can do the research ourselves and be prepared. 'Cause, I just know sometimes things get changed and I'm caught off guard and I haven't had time to do my due diligence on those proposals. So I just ask that that take place. Other than that, I have nothing left. So let's move to presentations, which we have none. We'll move to bids. We have the Magic Bus bid.
Good evening. We recently went out to do a RFP for the Magic Bus, and we contacted 4 people for when we sent out the RFP, and the 4 companies, which were Central State Bus, Mid-America Coach, Midwest Transit Equipment, and Southern Busing. These are the 4 that I contacted, and then all 4 of them submitted bids back to us. We received the bids on June 23rd. We had a public opening for the bid, and this is to replace the current 2005 Ford Magic Bus with a 2015 Ford E350 12 passenger 2-wheelchair mobility bus. We received our bids from the 4 different companies. I apologize here real quick. Central State Bus, they presented a bid for $51,395 with an option for a rear backup camera for $450 and a remote and heated exterior breakaway mirror options for $550 for a total of $52,395. Mid-America Coach provided a base bid of $54,540. That base bid included the rear backup camera. There was an option for the remote and heated exterior breakaway mirrors for $647 for a total of $55,187. Midwest Transit Equipment provided a base bid of $51,522. The rear backup camera is an additional $1,200. The remote and heated exterior breakaway mirrors, $675 for a grand total on that one of $53,397. Southern Bus and Mobility provided a base bid of $64,955, rear backup camera for $390, and the option of the remote and heated exterior breakaway mirrors for $345 for a total cost of $65,690. After receiving these bids, Eric Grunfelder and myself did review all 4 buses. We actually went out and visited some of them. We called them to see if there were some in town where we can see them, because some of these companies are not in town. we did do our due diligence and what's the material, how are they put together, what are some of your problems. Our recommendation is to go with Southern Busing. Now, they are the most expensive. Just to break it down, the cheapest one was Central School Bus. And it didn't meet the specs that we had put together for these buses. We came together and looked, what do we want in a bus? Who's using our bus? It is for the mature adults. And to see them try to get in our current Magic bus is very difficult. It's very, the aisle is, I think, 14 inches wide. So that's what it is. Now we're able to, 18 seems to be the new standard. Increase the height of the ceiling, the steps going into the bus. Most of these buses were a 3-step to get in. We looked at a 4-step, which made it easier for them with handrails to be able to get in and then get down the aisles. And the grade of the flooring, because we hear that there's an issue with the flooring rotting out, getting wet and rotting out. Leaks, these buses get leaks, and the paneling it literally stuck together, and then you see beads of caulk around where they're just kind of placed together. And it's like caulk you see in your bathroom on some of them. It was pretty bad. So we took all this as our specs and compared the other buses to them, and the only bus that did match what we wanted was the Southern Busing. So our recommendation is to proceed with the purchase from Southern of the mobility bus from Southern Bus and Mobility for a total of $65,690, which is below the 2015 fiscal year capital expense of $67,000.
Okay. So it sounds like, to sum up what you're saying as far as why going with the highest bid, that it met our needs more so than the others. Really, you felt that the other bids fell short of what
Yes.
we really needed?
Well, you take the complaints, you do your review of the buses. What's the biggest complaints? Your floors are rotting out, your walls are leaking, your windows are leaking. And we did our review of that, and we knew when we went into this, what we were looking for. So it didn't meet up to the specs. Some of them didn't meet the specs, trying to make it easier for the individuals to be able to access the bus and move around in the bus.
Okay. Just go ahead.
Current bus that you're replacing,
Yes, sir.
does it have the metal floors or is it plywood? It's the marine plywood.
It is the marine plywood, yes.
Have we had, now, our city policy is hold it for 10 years. Do we have a problem with the current floor in our bus?
Not that I've
Not that
noticed.
not that anybody's shared with me.
No, not that it's been shared with
Okay.
me either.
The leaking in the panels, I'll agree with you, type thing. In your reviewing with the bidders, all 3 of them submitted the bid knowing they were non-compliant. Any explanation as to why?
That they were hoping that they can convince us to go with the variations.
Okay. If we went out for a rebid, knowing what my high bidder is, my chances, because these are the 4 guys that do this type
Correct.
of work, would they rebid it to the specs, or would I end up just wasting time?
I know Central Bus does not have one that would meet our specs at all.
Okay, so they come in with a no bid.
They would come in with a no bid. I did not ask that of the other 2 bidders, of Midwest or,
The current bus that we have, will any of these 4 firms give us a trade-in allowance for it?
Southern Busing would. The issue with the current bus is it was purchased with grant money.
Yeah.
And we've got where we're tied, we have to pay the state back 10% upon the sale of the bus.
Oh, interesting. We get to spend their money and get the bus, and now if we give it up, we have to give back more? We do not have a grant on this current request. So
No, we
it's
do
all-
not.
It's strictly
It's capital.
100% out of the Brentwood bunch. Okay. That's it on me.
So the big jump in cost is this steel cage and steel body as opposed to the wood. Is that what you're telling me?
The height, we got the differences. We have the height. Some of the change is the interior is a plastic. It's not upholstery, so we're not going to be dealing with dirty interior, falling interior after a while. We are taller, we are wider. We do have some more accessibility items. The seats going down the aisle will have grips so that somebody can help themselves along, and there will be grips up on top.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm just gonna give you my thought. You guys usually are very, very good about, you always go with the lowest bid. So the fact that this is still under budget, and the fact that I've only ridden on the Magic Bus, I was gonna say I never have, but I have, when we took a trip down to the trails a while ago. I trust that you guys did do your due diligence and that you know exactly what you needed. Unfortunately, the other bids are lower, but like it says, it did not meet specifications. So I would have a tendency to agree with your recommendation, again, being that it's still under budget. So those are my thoughts.
Alderman Leahy?
We return, or what are we gonna do with the 2005 bus? Are we gonna end up selling it or doing something with it then?
That is, my understanding is it's to be sold.
So we'll end up with still 2 Magic buses in the
No,
park?
the 2005
It will be
will be
sold.
sold.
So we're gonna have one
One
bus
bus.
to work
Exactly.
with. How many times do we have a need for the double wheelchair ability in the bus?
Eric, would you have that information?
Didn't they all?
We put in a 2 requirement,
Oh.
but I'm trying to understand how often we use.
To be honest, currently, we don't use it a whole lot.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't have many riders right now who actually are handicapped, or not handicapped, who need wheelchair accessibility. But it's the needing it for the future. We're never going to know, and to be able to have that flexibility is what is important.
Now, this bus is going to be equipped, when the wheelchairs aren't in place, there are fold-down
They're
chairs.
chairs. Yeah.
Yes,
But if we need to, we have 2 areas that lock them in place so everybody travels safely
that is correct.
to work with. I was just trying to think how often we had wheelchair accessibility.
And another thing with Southern Busing is they are in Valley Park.
Park.
And one thing that they did tell us is that in the event that we should have issues with our bus, that they have a loaner that they can let us use in the meantime, so the Magic Bus program will continue even when our bus is out for service.
Does the current bus currently have wheelchair accessibility?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know, just to add a final comment, I agree with Alderman Minister's comments about, you do your due diligence, it's under budget. I'd like to add, though, that these are special residents who probably need a little more care, so to pay for more of a premium that gives them those needs being met, I think is well worth an extra $10,000. So I will entertain a motion on this topic.
Motion that the committee recommend to the Board of Aldermen to take the Southern Bus and Mobility bid of $65,690 and forward it on to the Board of Aldermen for approval.
Second?
All right, we have a first and a second.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes?
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Toots?
Yes.
Alderman Tui, when this goes to the board, we will be including the vehicle equipment evaluation form that the board requests that we attach, so that you can see the rating and how the city's mechanic, David James, has rated this vehicle.
Okay, that'll be,
Any chance we could get a picture of it, too?
Can we get a picture?
I can get a picture. I know it's probably, can we do a first and a second reading?
Oh, for, within one
oh,
night?
and,
Oh,
In one
on
night.
this
sure,
12th.
do we make that here, make that motion here?
Yes, yes.
Okay. If we
So
could-
moved.
Second?
All right.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes?
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Toots?
Yes. All right, we will now move to new business, Resolution 1038, City of Brentwood Special Event, consumption of beer and wine at the new rec center. There's some marketing material with this as well, correct?
It's underneath the,
Yep.
so.
Okay.
As as the memo states, we are asking for the approval to provide consumption of beer, wine, and liquors for 2 events as it's related to the grand reopening. We're looking for on September 4th for the Boards Commission's advanced preview. That will actually be September 4th at 6 p.m. We're still finalizing that as this memo is written. And then also for the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce After Hours event, which will be October 8th from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. So the preview obviously is a preview for the boards and aldermen and commission members to kind of see it before we open it. And the chamber will be a way to kind of show it off to chamber members and to see if they're interested in renting the rooms as well. That's kind of our marketing tool to get chamber members maybe to rent a little bit more than they have in the past. So.
Okay, any questions?
Motion to pass bill
Resolution.
1038 onto the Board of Aldermen with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right. We have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call?
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes. All right, we now have a presentation on the request for proposal for the demolition of city property.
On Monday, the city posted an RFP for the demolition of the Latrell building. Right, that's the building just east of the Public Works. With an opening on August 25th at 10:30. We'll have a public opening for that. As part of the RFP, we included an exhibit with the hazardous material abatement survey that we performed. We do have lead paint, we do have asbestos in the building, various PCB ballast. There are items that will have to be removed. This information was given as part of the RFP so that we can get hopefully a good number on demolition and abatement of the building at one time. So.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, thank you. Are you giving the next presentation as well? No. Okay. We now have a presentation on the request for proposal on a recycle truck.
On Monday, staff went out to bid for a new recycle vehicle sanitation truck. The opening is Tuesday, August 25th at 10:15 a.m. Part of this proposal also includes a $75,000 grant from the Solid Waste Management District. And this will be a new 25-yard sanitation vehicle with dual card tippers and all the cool stuff. Low entry.
If we separate our recycling, which is what the truck would allow us to do?
No,
It's
Single-
we participate in single stream.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Who wants to separate the recycling?
If you separate it and turn it in separate, you do get a little bit more per weightage because you've taken the time versus single stream, drop it off and let them separate.
So the city would separate.
But we're not.
They
I was
actually,
gonna say, like the residents, because I'm.
I don't
No,
even know that
most-
they-
Most people don't do that.
they don't
do
even
the separation
require
anymore.
separation anymore. I mean,
Single
that's
stream.
old school.
It is old school. I've been doing it since the 70s.
Well, you started before most people. That is great.
Been funding a lot of programs with it.
And actually, the city was one of the first to
Yes.
have single stream recycling in St. Louis County, or to offer it to the residents.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Jim. And now we have the request for blasting. Just as I thought, this is going to be the shortest meeting ever.
Just taking my kids.
Thank you. As part of the MSD Project Clear that's been going on, MSD and their consultants have come several times to the Public Works Committee, given updates, given information about it. Most recently, there was an open house that was held at Brentwood City Hall. And the prime focus of that was the discussion of blasting. The smaller project, which is the DC-02, DC-03 project, primarily running down Russell Avenue. The MSD has expressed an interest that they would like to utilize blasting along that corridor to excavate the rock. The alternative that they've brought up would be chipping away, and I believe there's been some conversation about the boring as well. In order for this to continue to move forward, the city of Brentwood does not have a blasting expert on staff. And with that, basically, it would be our recommendation to contract out with St. Louis County for them to handle the permitting, the review, and the inspections for the project. And the cost to the city, there would be no direct cost. The cost would all be paid for by the contractor paying the county through the permit fees. As part of this, we currently have an agreement with St. Louis County. They handle elevator inspections and amusement ride inspections for the city. So they would require that agreement to be amended to include administration of the explosives code. And as part of that, they would also require the city to adopt their explosives code that the county has on place. So with that, staff is asking for a recommendation from the Public Works Committee to move forward to the Board of Aldermen with an ordinance, two ordinances, one to adopt the explosives code and the second to amend the agreement with St. Louis County to provide the services.
Then would it be a different ordinance or some sort of other vote to approve the blasting for MSD? Am I wrong on that? Or has that already been approved?
This will do it.
Yeah,
This
thi-
will do
this
it.
would
Okay.
effectively
Okay.
take part, yeah.
All right.
I've been having lots of conversations with MSD on this one. The pitch that MSD is working with is chipping is not the real preferred method. It's noisy, it's time consuming and working through. The dilemma that I have with where we're headed in the blasting is on my last set of conversations at the end of July, 1st of August with Brad Nevos. Am I pronouncing his name right?
It's close.
You're looking at 50 to 60% of the length of Russell Avenue nobody can give us a good answer at this point, may not be able to be blasted in because of locations of current structures in relationship to where the pipe would be laid. And until they get in and start doing that and getting their seismic readings, they may have to eliminate the blasting and go back to chipping during that area. Brad's group is still trying to determine what that will do. They did give me and shared with me the cost estimates for both blasting and for the chipping to work with. The dilemma blasting and boring to work with, and we're of about $4 million differential between the two. Though in my review and questions back to Brad's group, there are a couple extra costs for the blasting side that I've asked about that are not reflected on their sheet that Brad said he would check into, and I'm waiting for an answer on that. I live inside their 500-foot area. They are looking to go to 1,000-foot. Now, you got to understand how they're working it. Under county regulations and their current regulations, anything within 500 foot of the zone of where they're looking at, they will do full inspections, underground and upper floors, just so they can do before and after pictures so that if anybody complains, they can actually show. Their intent is to try to expand to 1,000 foot, and everybody between 500 to 1,000 will get better notifications that this project is going to be going on. They would, on a case-by-case issue, possibly talk with certain homeowners and see what they could do before things happen, just so that everybody's comfortable with what's going on. County and the state both have advised MSD they will not allow the cutting of Brentwood Boulevard or Manchester Road because of the amount of traffic on those two roads and the trouble it would cause trying to divert traffic while they blasted through those areas. So they are asking them to do the boring underneath those. Your Russell stretch is everything in between. I too would like them to get the project done and done nicely. But if we're not gonna actually be able to make this work, and they're gonna end up with chipping away anyway type thing. I really would like the city to have further discussions with MSD on this before we just make a decision to do the blast and go that route. Because if they're right, even at their best numbers, 50% of the length can't be blasted, then I'm back to chipping, and I haven't really solved a whole lot of our problems to work with. Where boring eliminates the potential danger to the neighborhood, the structures, it doesn't tear up the street. It costs a little bit more, it does, and $4 million is a lot more money than I carry. But I think it's well worth looking at the project and pushing in that direction versus yielding to just working it this way.
Comment on that?
What Alderman Leahy has said is accurate. He has exchanged an email with MSD, and the cost differential that they provided him in regards to cutting versus tunnel is 13.3 million to 17.3. But also they indicate that they're not going to know until then. So in order, if they're not going to know until they start the digging. So for the city to wait until then, we are in essence delaying the project. So if the city agrees at this point to authorize blasting, and they've indicated that when they start to dig and do the geotechnical boring, they will be able to advise us whether they won't be able to do the blasting. They've already committed to that. So to delay a path forward, in essence, is stopping the project from moving forward.
I'm not delaying, I'm just asking for more discussion
what
and
point-
questions with them. Because as I've pointed out to Brad, there are things that I need them to look at and work through, because based on what they're doing, if we can't blast, then do we go back to chipping? And the blasting hasn't saved the city of Brentwood or anybody in that area a thing.
I have a question, and this is for Alderman Leahy. If we were to have discussions with MSD again, at this committee level, or, because I know they came to a Public Works meeting, and that's when a couple.
They did,
several
and we
months
as
ago.
staff have been talking to them, and we intend to continue to enter into a dialogue. So truly, I think we should be doing that on behalf of the elected officials and the residents.
Yeah, and that was my question. Where would the conversation take
Well,
place?
they've had a total of 4 open meetings in the last 2 years. I've attended all 4. I've talked with the mayor to work with on this project, and my emails going back and forth have always been copied through the city, asking questions about what's going on and sharing information back and forth. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the project. I just don't want the city to say, yeah, let's go to blasting, and all of a sudden we're back to chipping arrangement, and I've got a bigger mess. The chipping does take a lot longer to work with. If the discussion is of value, then we really need to make sure that all parties are fully confident of what we're doing before we put equipment
I
out there.
believe we are. If you read in the weekly report,
Yes, I
it
did.
says it is not, and this is Brad's comment,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not in the contractor's interest to do blasting at that location, the contractor will most likely chip this small amount of rock out. So they've already indicated that.
They're gonna go back to chipping.
So by saying that the city is authorizing blasting doesn't mean carte blanche, that's all they're gonna do.
No, that's the limit. Because we're headed looking at the blasting helps them move quicker along the line. No problem with that. But if 50%, or as much as I measured, 60% of Russell Avenue cannot be blasted, then I'm back to the chipping.
Right.
MSD's own presentations was that they don't want to do chipping because it is really a detriment to the neighborhood.
But they may be forced to do chipping is what
Sorry,
they're
I'm gonna
saying.
jump in here.
Thus, I'm asking,
I guess I understand
I want.
if they can't blast everywhere they'd like to blast and they end up chipping, how are we somehow at
If
a
we
detriment?
push them to the third option of moving the boring, because they're gonna have to do it anyway, in Brentwood Boulevard on the east, Manchester Road at the west. And we just have them bore the full length to work with. The trick is the city, you have the ability in the discussions right now to get this on the table and make them look at this project and say, what's really in everybody's best interest? MSD's biggest push is their chipping method isn't the best method and is far from being preferred. Blasting helps them. Boring is most expensive. But if I give you permission to blast and things don't go right, I'll go back to chipping. Where if we had the full discussion, we could have at least the leverage of forcing the issue to go to boring for the full length.
Okay, well, I'm gonna throw this up. I mean, they are gonna do this the most efficient way. They obviously know how to do this more than we do. We don't even have the expertise in the city on how to do this. Furthermore, if we're gonna have the county performing oversight, I mean, you throw this 50% out, but even MSD has said, we don't know until we actually dig. With the control of the county inspecting and setting the precedent of when they can blast, I don't think we have to worry about MSD recklessly just blasting to keep the
No one's
project.
reckless. When you do the blasting, you go out so far from your pipe, and depending if structures do or do not exist, you put your seismic readings. Depending on what's in the ground between where you're digging and that structure, that determines your reading, and that will determine whether they can continue to blast to keep moving down, or if things are, unfortunately, I'm gonna say not as compact, and thus the seismic waves move faster and could cause more damage, then the seismic readings would say you cannot blast because of the structure being in, and you have to get that far down the road before you can get to another area that you could. If that happens, then they have to go back and go, okay, how do I make my trench during that stretch?
Alderman Tui, we have the technical experts here.
Okay, if they wanna speak.
Well, I'm not sure whether you, okay. I'm not sure on your 50 to 60% number where you got that, Alderman, as far as if you discuss that with MSD or you're looking at location of buildings, but the contractor and the blaster, there's certain regulations in the county code stuff, but they can, depending on how close the building is and what kind of readings they're getting, they may lower their the pounds of dynamite that they put in there, so they're putting out less shock waves. So, you know, if they're far enough away, they'll go faster, you know, with heavier, not faster, but with heavier loads with the dynamite. But when they get closer, they'll go with less, they'll drill less, they won't go all the way down, all the way through the rock. They may go down, you know, 5 feet into the rock, do a blast, then go down another 5 feet, do a blast. So they don't send that kind of vibration through the home and damage it.
Yep.
So it doesn't, you know, just because they're close doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to blast. It just may, that they have to do a different type of operation than
Yes.
if they were further away from the thing. So
Yes.
I still think the contractor's going to want to blast because it's more economical for him.
It is.
And we think, unless it gets to a point where he feels that he's going to cause damage to the building, which he doesn't want to do, then he'll have to go to chipping. But that's not going to be his method unless he can't figure out a way with his blasting operation not to cause damage to the nearby properties.
And
So-
that, yes, and nobody wants anybody's house damaged
Right.
to work with. The dilemma is if I'm buying into your discussion, chipping is not my preferred method. Thus, yes, I can adjust my blast powder and stuff to be able to make it work.
Right.
But if I end up having to go back to chipping, then why, if I have to go that route because of the constraints that are in there, why does that not justify pushing the boring? If boring is the least environmentally impact and get you where you need to be to work with, you've already got to have the equipment coming out of Brazil. And when you get to Manchester, the trick is as long as it's there, keep working it. The limit is when I bore a tunnel, I have to pull every bit of gravel out of the tunnel all the way to the back end to get it out of here.
Correct.
And thus my costs go. But at the same token, as I looked at the two sheets that were provided to me, if I had to go back to chipping, then my 4 million isn't really a $4 million sway. I end up adding a little cost from that. I don't have the cost of the inspections and all of this in my blasting proposal. If I add that, I start bringing my two numbers a little bit closer. So now I'm back at where is it most convenient for all parties, MSD, the city, and the residents, to go, let's get it done, but this is the best way to do it. And how do I force that conversation? That's what I'm doing with Brad.
I understand. But we feel that most of it is going to be able to be done with blasting.
Okay.
Because of the location of the buildings and the technology that these firms have, the blasters, their experience. So we feel that's going to be the majority of the work is going to be able done that way. To say that none of it's going to be chip, no, we can't say that, because
Okay.
there'll be things that come up. But that's going to be, the minority of the work is going to be done with chipping in that area, primarily with blasting. So we think, from a schedule standpoint, the amount of time you're going to be out there, we say it's almost double the speed when you use blasting versus the chipping. So you're going to be out of the area a lot quicker, less disturbance to the residents. And so that's why we think that the blasting is the key to get this contract and this construction through this area as quick as possible and minimize the disruption to the neighborhood.
Do you want to ask, do either of the other two aldermen have questions on this topic?
Well, I'm just looking, when I see tunneling here being 3 to 4 times the cost, is tunneling the same thing as boring?
Yes, basically, it's
Okay.
a type,
All
it's
right.
terminology, type of, whatever the contractor uses,
And-
to do it, or jack, we have to do, hammering, because he's gonna be in rock. So,
Right.
it's not gonna be a dirt tunnel, it's gonna be a rock tunnel, so that's a slow process, and a lot of times they have to end up do blasting when they're doing the tunnel also.
Yep.
Because they can't just jackhammer it out, it's too slow to do that, so they'll be underground, blasting, to get the rock out so they can excavate it out.
So it's not like a big drill bit like they're going to be doing with the one down Brentwood later on?
No, this is smaller pipe, and so they may, but they may not. Part of it is also what we call mixed face, where part of the excavation is going to be in rock and part of it's going to be in dirt. And that's very hard to do with a machine because of it's hard to keep it online at the right elevation because it gets, has a soft area and a hard area. So that most contractors will not try to do it with the machine because they lose control of the elevation and the alignment with the mixed face. We have a lot of that, especially in towards Russell, because really the rock really starts right there at Brentwood, because the downstream part is dirt with maybe a little bit of rock right as we get close to Brentwood. But then there's a ledge and it really raises up as far as where the rock elevation is. And so from there on to Russell, it's deep rock. We're 15, 20 feet into rock as we go up through Russell and basically the rest way of the project, so.
Go let other minister.
Well, I just wanted to just clarify, when they were first here, it was the other committee you guys weren't on, the committee was different. And they brought in a slideshow and it showed what chipping sounds like and what the residents would have. And so we had a long discussion and talked about all the different options. Blasting was most economical. Blasting is what they thought they could do through the whole project. Nobody, if they have to chip, I believe that they want to do the minimal amount of chipping they have to just to get it finished, because I'm sure they don't, because, if I lived over there, I would be like complaining, calling the city, and that's not, what the city wants. It sounds like you can pretty much blast all the way down Russell until you get closer to Brentwood Boulevard. Is that what you were saying?
No, I'm saying the downstream end down by on suburban tracks is dirt and
Yeah.
very little rock. But once you get to Brentwood, from there west or up Russell, that's where you get into the large.
Oh, okay.
Where the rock is.
So you're like on the other side right now. Is that what you're?
Yeah, we're going to start down on the other side down there by the Metro garage, and that will.
Yeah.
Most of that will be in dirt, a little bit of rock at the very bottom of the trench. But as we get to Brentwood and then on up Russell, then it's going to be a lot more rock, 15, 20 feet of rock. And that's where, they won't want to use the chipping, they want to use the blasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, staying with where you're taking me, when I get into Russell, I'm into rock. How hard is it to bore the rock?
Well, it all depends on if you're entirely within rock. That's one of the situations, because you have a mixed
Yeah.
face.
Yes.
We have that. We know we have that at Brentwood.
Yes.
It's going to be a mixed face, but it depends on as we go up what our elevation of our sewer is and the elevation of rock, because it varies throughout there.
Exactly.
And so that determines the speed and how they're going to be able to do it. If they can get a machine in there, a TBM,
Yep.
then that's one thing. That's quicker than having to blast or drill or whatever. But we know some of it is not that. It's definitely mixed phase and a much slower operation where you really can't do it with a machine accurately. They're going to have to be in there drilling and blasting basically underground.
So-
So
yeah.
so still going to need to be doing blasting, but just not, on the surface drilling down.
My past experience working with MSD, they did if you know where the Rock Hill Quarry is, that creek that's there, they did a storm water tube from that creek all the way up Courtright to Hudson Avenue. Now, if memory serves me correctly, that's Rock Hill, and they did not allow them to punch Courtright, so they had to bore the whole thing. It worked out very nicely. They came through our property from the creek coming all the way up to get to Courtright itself to keep coming up the street to work with. I don't know the geological arrangement. In MSD's prep work for this line, they took 8 core samples along Russell, Razoo area. That's why nobody knows exactly what they're gonna get into till they get there. Prep work, reasonable type thing. But my dilemma is, and I'm looking at Russell itself, based on not knowing the geologicals, but knowing where the physical structures are in relationship, this and measuring the footage to work with, this is where I came up being very aggressive, the 60% number versus 50% to work with. Blasting, going down, Elizabeth is your expert to work with. She comes very highly recommended throughout the county to work with. So and she and I spent some time talking, so at least I got a little bit of knowledge from her. But I'm just not sold that running the blast may not be the best solution for this project. And I really would love to have the conversation to push the boring further.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just call for the vote from the committee. If anyone would like to make the motion based on staff's recommendation that we go ahead and adopt an ordinance contracting with St. Louis County permitting inspection services, as well as an ordinance to adopt the St. Louis Explosion Code or enforcement regulation. Seems like everyone's kind of made up their minds, so let's go ahead and take a vote and see where we go from there.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Dewey?
Yes. Okay, well, that's the agenda for this meeting, so I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Believe all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, our next meeting will be Wednesday, September 9th, 2015, where we'll have just as much fun as we did tonight.
I will be coming in from out of town. I will try to be here on time,
Okay.
but I'm not 100% sure of my time frame of getting into town.
Okay, let me know as we get closer. If someone else.
No, I have no email or anything
Okay,
to work with.
all right. Well, if either of you two can't make it, just let me know, so I'll,
There's a pretty picture. Yeah.
okay.